say for democracy, and that's disconcerting. I think, by the way, support for Israel is a position that goes way beyond neoconservatism. It includes most American liberals going back a long way, all the way back to Harry Truman. But there's a lot more to be said on that. I mean, I've spoken enough. I just want to say two things. The first is that I do think this distinction between the largely initially domestically based neoconservatism, its humility about government functions, I think at times that humility led to a skepticism about government's capacity that was dangerous, and yet it was Pat Moynihan himself, who is widely associated with this movement, who even talking about the Great Society that is so often derided by various kinds of conservatives, Pat Moynihan once said there were more successes than we wanted to know. And so I think that at its best, neoconservatism could have and has had some effect in making liberals think more about unintended consequences, think more about how to structure programs. Community policing, after all, was promoted in significant part by Bill Clinton and the Clinton administration. So I think I will say myself that I have learned a lot from that brand of neoconservatism. I worry when neoconservatism itself begins to harden into a kind of ideology, and that for the future, as I said, I don't think that neoconservatism as originally conceived no longer exists, but there will be people holding a series of foreign policy views who will be influential, and many of us will keep arguing with them.
Frank? Well, just on this question of Israel, I think that, first of all, the problem is not, that I think that Israel is important to many neoconservatives. The problem is not divided loyalties or putting Israel's interest ahead of the United States. What I said in my argument with Krauthammer is the problem is that many neoconservatives have adopted the point of view, the strategic prism of many hardliners on the Israeli right, including their interpretation of Arab motives and behavior, this idea that the Arabs don't understand any principles of legitimacy, it's only force that they respect, this sort of thing, which then dictates a whole way of dealing with that region as a whole. And I just said, I think that that was a big mistake, and I think that that continues to be a problem. I mean, Krauthammer said that's anti-Semitism, but I just don't believe that that's really what was motivating me.
Bill? Yeah, I don't want to get into the dispute between. I don't want to get into any of these disputes because they're somewhat distasteful, honestly, and I think the questions are not asked in a spirit of inquiry, but in a spirit of gotcha in this case. I mean, it seems to me hard to understand how we now neoconservatives have contempt for the Arabs and think they only believe in force and are ludicrously utopian about the possibility of building an Arab democracy in Iraq, but maybe those can go together. Can they? Is that what you think?
Well, that's a big, yeah, I mean, that was a big contradiction.
We're just totally, well, okay, so we're...
That was a big contradiction, it seems to me, in the position.
Maybe it's a big contradiction in the understanding of the position, and maybe one shouldn't impute views generally that in such a... But anyway, it's not, The two questions were, I guess, about Israel. I mean, I don't know what the question really is. Yes, I'm pro-Israel. I think it is a very good thing that the State of Israel exists. I think it would be a calamity for the world if the State of Israel were destroyed. It doesn't mean I agree with one particular party in Israel. I just don't think it's empirically true, what Frank says, that many neoconservatives were very much influenced by Israeli hardline views on the rest of the Middle East. I'm not even sure. I don't even know that many Israeli hardliners, I don't think, very well, but most of the ones I knew were very skeptical about the war in Iraq because they really wanted to totally focus on Iran. I also don't agree that the intervention in Iraq has weakened us vis-a-vis Iran, but that's another foreign policy debate, and we can debate Iran policy. We will debate Iran policy for the next couple of years. I would just make the obvious point that Kagan, Kraut, and I, and millions of hawks supported a bunch of interventions in Rwanda and Sudan and Bosnia that had nothing much to do with the interests of Israel one way or the other. And I think we were hawkish on China, as CJ said. We were just generally hawkish, I think. And it wasn't a matter of watching out for Israel's interests. But I also think Israel is a strong ally, and the U.S. should where possible, help Israel defend itself and not be cavalier about Israel's interest in a dangerous part of the world. People can debate. I'm not going to give in some defensive way, give some list of people who have served in the military on one side or another. I think the question's really contemptible.
Thanks very much. Please join me in thanking the panelists, and sorry for going over time on this, and have a very good day.
Justin Vise is a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution. For more information, visit brookings.edu.